Okay, now I'm live on Facebook, and I'm not getting any errors, and I'm live on YouTube, and I'm not getting any errors. Okay, so to completely start this whole craptascular thing over, I hate Facebook. Anyway, so I'm working on Justice City Chronicles, and we're going to get right into it. So the scans come to me via Dropbox, and I need to go ahead and go in and convert the resolution here. We want to keep these at basically 4400 by 6800, but it needs to be 600 dpi. So we'll go to 4400, keep that back, and go okay. That way we're getting some nice clean lines. Looks like it might be a little bit tilted. So we're going to go in and get to work. So one of the things that a lot of people who do this kind of thing, they have a hard time. Like, what's the best way to turn lines blue? I love Clip Studio. I just click a button, and now the lines are blue. I need to move this around so I'm looking more. Oh my gosh, I really hate Facebook. All right. So yeah. So I always start out with getting these panel borders done. Yeah, that's good. Oh, hello, Sonny. There's a blast from the past. How's it going? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, some of these lines are a little bit tilted, which is fine. It's up to me to correct those things. Get in here. Clean them up. There we go. Let's see. I think I'll start with this one right here. Okie dokie. So we'll zoom in and let the fun begin. I usually tweak my stabilization depending if I'm doing organic or inorganic shapes. Guns and stuff, they're going to get more stabilization so I can get a cleaner, thicker line, more straight. And we'll just hang out and do this for a little while. really like this brush set. This one brush, I can get so many different types of lines out of it. It's great. I also look for little areas where I can add embellishments. A little bit of feathering going on. My buddy Anthony, who is drawing the book, he's got a really nice 90s style to it. It's looking pretty good. Put glasses on it. Yeah, there's my Indie Volt boss. Character kind of looks like you. Put glasses on him as an Easter egg. Figure will never know. Marcus might catch it. His hair. He's got more hair than I do. Way more hair. That's going to be fun, all that little 5 o'clock shadow there. So he says, love it, bro. Thank you, boss. Appreciate it. If you want to check out Justice City Chronicles on Indiegogo, that's where you'll be able to, if you decide to get the book. I'm pretty sure this is a backup story as part of that original campaign. Although Figaro can correct me if I'm wrong. Good stuff. Always a pleasure to ink his lines. So he says he'll check it out. Thank you. Appreciate it. Fortunately, Anthony's lines are pretty tight. Something that I'm, when I do my own pencils, I'm not very good at. I want to get to this stage so fast, I'll leave a lot out. So if I was having somebody else ink my own work, which would be fun, I'd have to put a lot more effort into tightening up the lines. Now here's something that's fun. When you're in Clip Studio, you want to go down to your scan, which I'm actually hiding here. Let me move my face up here. That's smaller. There we go. So down here in the layers, you want to hit the draft layer button here. That way, when you go to do a fill, it won't look at the draft layer, because if that was off, if I were to turn that off, let me back up. If I turn that off and I was in a fill layer, see how it's filling what's underneath of it, which is useful, but not useful in this case. So you want to make sure and do all your blue lines, set them as draft, and then you'll get clean fills. The teacher in me, too, since there's no music playing or anything, just wants to kind of explain what's going on, which I guess is useful. Again, this Crow Quill 01 that I'm using from, I think it was Jimmy Reeves Art. He put out a series of brushes. I can get such different line quality out of just one brush. Go from thick to thin without having to go in and mess around and change all these settings over here. I'll probably stay live until I get this one panel done, then I'm going to go eat lunch and shift gears to a private commission that I got to get some drawing done on. The The thing I don't like about streaming is that it creates another distraction. So working on stream, inking I can do because I'm not having to do a lot of hard decision making, at least with Anthony's art here, because he's made a lot of the thick and thin decisions for me because his pencils are really tight. And there's an argument to be made that maybe this doesn't even need to be inked, and certainly a lot of people will work that way. But the colorist wants it to be digitally inked. So that's why I'm brought on board. And here we go. Thick lines for things that are closer to you, thin lines for things that are further away. All right, so now I got this fun little transition here, so we'll fill that. I'll go into a negative color to use as an eraser. I need to get off of this layer. Okay. All right, so I'll use this layer underneath. That way I can come in, grab that part for the fill, not destroy the border, to do a little bit of that gradation. A lot more to inking comic books than just turning pencil lines black. Keep forgetting where I put my camera. And here we've got this rigid plating. So I'm going to turn the stabilization up. That way I can get a more straight, true line out of it. Turn it back down. Okay, now we have another fill right there. Hey, Pops. Thanks for joining. I don't know if you got a copy of Justice City Chronicles or not, Pops, but if you did, it'll go right next to God's Hand, and you'll have more of my my inking artwork. All right, I'm going to do this fun foreground face here before I get into the explosion going on back here. Shredded out in the usual places, yep. Bob says I missed out on both of Anthony's books. Timing and funding did not. Yep, I can understand that. There's a bunch of stuff that I wanted to get in on, but I can't buy everything. I got to make my own stuff. I need money for that. I think Justice City Chronicles is still in demand, though. I hear you, Pops, on the 20 books. Yeah, I'd say at least for myself is somewhere around that number. And some that I wanted, I just didn't want to pay for. There was that manga by that guy in Australia. I mean, that looked really cool, but I just couldn't afford it. Which reminds me, I've definitely got to figure out a way. I got to get Gunship Thunder Punch book 2. That one was one of my favorite reads that came out. Transformers meets G.I. Joe. How can you go wrong with that? All right, now lots of little flicks. Zoom in. I have a tendency to not zoom in enough. Find myself zoomed out and I'm like squinting real low. It's just. Oh yeah, I hear you on the shipping. It's like if they're coming from overseas. Buy the dips. I told you about that Cardano though. Cardano, I think it hit over $2 a coin. I got into Cardano at 75 cents, I think. I think that's what I paid, something like that. It was under $1. Now it's doubled. I should have put 10 grand in. Yeah, that looks nice. That's a nice little gradation of stubble. We'll add some dots and some skin pores. Well, that's the important thing. Get in early, then you can ride the roller coaster without being afraid. All right, so I'm going to collapse these layers and create a new layer just for what's all going around back here. So we look at the whole page. There's explosions and fire and stuff all going around. So, and these are pretty much just fill shapes. So I want less stabilization. And we'll just kind of focus on kind of whipping these shapes around. And since I'm working on a different layer, I don't have to worry about I'll try to, that's good. I want to try to hit these shapes in one line as close as possible. This, I think, is like a 60-page graphic novel. Somebody's asking how long it is. It's not a 32-page comic book. It's a graphic novel. It's at least, it might even be as close to 80 pages. I know God's Hand, I think, worked out to be close to 80 pages. That was the previous one that I worked on. I may add some different effects as well to make this explosion even more gnarly. All right, so that gives us an opportunity to fill. Kind of see how that's reading. I want to make sure I'm not getting a lot of weird overlap lines. I can break these up a little bit too. This is where I get to put my hand into it. Sonny asks, what's the difference between a 32-page and a 20-page comic? Well, about 12 pages. It just depends on how much story there is. Traditionally, comics were about 32 pages, and you'd get 34 pages of actual story. But as time's gone on, and they're just throwing ads in and stuff, you'll be lucky to get 22 pages of story out of a 32-page comic, at least with some of them. The thing about what's being put out on the crowdfund is there's no ads generally. So if you're buying an 80-page book, you're getting you're getting 80 pages of content. It could be 70-some pages of story, and then a art gallery, sketches, other cool things like that. I know for my Dreaded Dinosaur Man book, I'm planning a 32-page comic, and then I'm doing a collector's graphic novel version, which will be about 64 pages. It'll have a 10-page bonus story by a friend of mine, Josh Lyman, and it'll have a, you remember the old Marvel Universe handbook? I want to do a section in there of that's like that, where you'll learn more about the characters in kind of that old handbook style. All right, so we're just going to go in and just keep hacking away at this. I believe this is probably like some steel girder pieces of building. We'll have some fun with that in just a minute. Keep waiting for one of my CG buddies to pop in here, then we can really have some snark. but I didn't announce this. I just posted it on Twitter and then just went live. It's one of those things. It's like I could spend and waste time coming up with a cool intro and working on trying to get my channel right, or I could just go live and just start doing stuff. And I really just need to go live and start doing stuff because I got work to do. It's got to get done. As much as I can, if I can make it content to grow my channel, so I can get the word out about Dinosaur Man, so that when I'm ready to publish that book, and also working on the British Bulldog comic book and American Bliss for Genuine Comics, I'll be working on that again too, or not again. I'll be starting that book. So there's a lot of comic projects coming up, and I really want them to do well on crowdfund. So if I can share the process of making the book, that might make things go a little easier. So a little bit of embellishment on my part there with that. Just load that up. I imagine the colorist is going to bathe this in light and have ambience and separation with color, which is what I'd do if I was coloring this. So I'm kind of thinking in that realm too. Like, I don't want to overwork this since it's going to be, it'll function more as a background texture than anything. I am going to have a trouble. Well, no, this isn't a fill, so that's what that works. So some of these hairs here, I'll have to go back in and cut those out because they're going to get lost as soon as I fill this area. Okay. So we'll hit that, and those hairs go away. And that's that part of the panel. So I'm going to go back in with this and just kind of tick in a few of these hairs. There we go. Now, as far as embellishing, well, let me get this up here. Get this up here. All right, so we'll fill those. Shapes. Oops. All right, so there's that explosion. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to label it because Anthony may not like what I do. He may say, chill out on that, but I want to see if it works. So we'll see if he likes it. So I'll go in with the cross hatching. Just kind of come in. add a little bit to it, and then back up and get rid of this. Clean this up. Because clouds tend to cast shadows on each other, which is why I'm doing this. Smoke and stuff is always casting its own shadows. And then let's also take a look at doing some chunky spray. And we'll go in with white, and we'll do the opposite and kind of cut that out. Yeah, let's put some of this back here. All right, so that's the panel. Like I said, I'm going to see if he likes a little bit of extra that I put in. Just throw a few more back there. Manual lines. See if he likes that. If not, I can always just remove this layer and go back to strictly the lines that he drew. So yeah. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for everybody in the chat for coming out unsolicited. And I thank you for the support. I'm going to keep doing this. So like I said, I want to get my YouTube channel back up and running, start producing regular content that I'm working on. And I think working on these comics is a great way. Varian's asking a question here. What made you select that panel to work on first? I liked this whole chiseled chin, the framing and the explosion. So I figured it'd be a good one for me to do first to set the tone for all the rest of them. And generally speaking, it's just like, what's the most interesting panel? I'll start on whatever one catches my eye, because that'll get me ingrained into this and be like, oh man, I got to keep going and get the page done. That's just usually how I work. Anyway, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to go eat some lunch, and then I'm going to switch gears to a different project and get some of my commissions done. This weekend, if you're in Indianapolis area, I'll be at Squared Circle Expo, wrestling convention, hanging out there Friday and Saturday. So I'm looking forward to that. And I will see you on the next artworking broadcast. Ta-ta.